Hi, hello. So, I would like to talk a bit about what passes for acceptable standards of living conditions in my line of work, how fucked up I find that, and how much more it affects me, specifically, as a neurodivergent woman, for these things to be treated so inconsequentially by everyone else around me. I've talked about my work life on this channel a bit before and on my WriterTube channel because for a while I was trying to be a freelancer full time. I spent a year doing that because when it came to what I was doing before, working for my partner's family business, there wasn't really a good spot for me that season. They deal in general construction and maintenance pertaining to wood structures, like cabins, decks, bridges. Me and my partner usually work on projects as a pair, sometimes on our own, sometimes with other coworkers, but my partner was supposed to be focusing on making cabinetry last summer, which he didn't really need my help with, and I didn't want to go live on site with a bunch of other guys away from him. So, so I read and wrote and edited and made covers for a year, but it didn't make a lot of money. So when this season rolled around again, I wanted to come back into the fold, and that's what I'm doing now. We're working on a boathouse for a client, replacing all the soffit and fascia, swapping out really poor condition siding, and repainting the whole thing. While we're doing that, we're staying on a nearby island that the client also owns, which has a living space above their boating house over there and a two-bedroom main cottage. I've done this sort of arrangement several times and for years before now. Sometimes we stay where we work, sometimes we stay nearby, and I'm a recluse. Like, I like staying home in my little corner of the house with my own space and all my own things. But so long as basic needs are met, I don't mind sacrificing some of my comfort for the sake of the work season. Unfortunately, something always tends to go wrong every season where our living conditions get compromised. In the past, accommodations have had exposure to vermin. Sometimes there isn't a good screen to keep me from getting bug bites in the night, of which I react very poorly. Sometimes there's undrinkable lake water as the what's provided out of the taps, or there's some kind of persistent mold smell. This go round, we expected that there wouldn't be access to a trustworthy drinking water supply. All the cottages on the lake kind of say that they have UV filters on their water system, but they're usually old and not well maintained and don't have particle filters. So, either way, whether it's getting properly sanitized or not, it still tastes like lake water, which is awful. So, we brought half a dozen 4-liter bottles of distilled water with us specifically for drinking during the time that we would be staying there. All the rest of it was fine, like for showering, I didn't really care, but when you're working on the lake in 30 degrees Celsius weather, you need a lot of good, clean water to stay hydrated. As I mentioned before, there's a boathouse and a main cabin for us to stay in. Each had its pros and cons. The boathouse had more privacy because no one has any reason to go there unless they're the one staying there, but it had no Wi Fi. The main cottage had Wi Fi, but would function as the main communal area for meals, so people would hang around when I potentially want to be left alone. Me and my partner ended up staying in the main cabin anyway, foregoing privacy, because it meant that we could each have our own room. I unfortunately can't sleep in the same bed or room as my partner because he snores too loud, and I didn't particularly want to be sleep deprived for the next 2 months of work. All of this, like everything that I've said so far, was within expectations of compromise for the work season. I was ready and willing and able to do this. But then, the first night we stay there, as we were going to bed, we noticed that there was water on the mudroom floor. Upon further inspection, water was dripping from the upper cabinets. We're not plumbers, but we were correct in assessing that either a pipe had burst or a valve had broken in the upstairs bathroom. Trying to be reasonable guests at this cabin, we turned off the water to the main cabin, told the client what had happened, and eagerly awaited a plumber to come and actually deal with it. We were originally told the plumber would come the next day. They did not, nor the next day. Then the whole weekend passed, and it felt like playing broken telephone as to when the problem would actually get fixed. I realize and appreciate that we're on an island, but we were being told one thing and getting another. It would not make the situation better to have been accurately told when the plumbing would be fixed, because we still wouldn't have had running water, but knowing whether it'd be a day or a week is really important to our ability to plan and take care of ourselves. I really needed that information, that honesty. It felt really fucked up that I was just expected to put up with these conditions indefinitely until otherwise informed. And I'm just going to stress what this really meant. On the lower end of things, it meant we had to go to the boathouse to have a shower at the end of a workday. I didn't really care about that. That was fine. The parts that start to be really wearing were the other forms of personal hygiene. That I couldn't wash my hands after going to the bathroom without clumsily juggling a 4-liter water bottle tipped on the counter over the sink, holding it with one hand so I could get the other one wet. Same with brushing my teeth, washing my face. We had to go outside and take a bucket to the lake so that we could manually force flush the toilets. Since our cabin was the main eating area, none of the dirty dishes were getting done. Eventually, we started loading up a tote to carry to the boathouse to clean and then bring back after every meal. No laundry, either, obviously. And you can guess my fucking luck. A few days into not having running water, and I get my period unexpectedly early. And that's when I had a breakdown. I was miserable and started bawling because it was just a lot. My partner tried to offer solutions, but it was one of those things where the compromise of taking on more work to get the things done that I wanted was still so ultimately unfair. Like, yes, I could boil lake water in pans on the stove for a half an hour and fill a sink and scrub the stains out and fill the basin with bloody vagina water and then drain it and then have to do it again to wash my hands and rinse the underwear actually clean, but holy shit, dude, I shouldn't have to be doing this. Doing all that extra labor to get usable water is not a sustainable solution I should be expected to undertake. What I'm trying to stress here is the extra labor we were being expected to perform. After a full, exhausting workday, we were spending hours of extra labor to take care of our personal hygiene needs. And what was really fucking me up was that this was not treated with the severity it deserved. Running water is a basic human need we did not have because we were staying somewhere for work. When my boss, who was staying in the boathouse with running water still, referred to the situation as being a pain in the butt, I almost fucking lost it on him. He might get to feel that way, but that's totally discrediting what I'm going through, what he's not experiencing the full brunt of. He may be willing to haul dishes around the island after every meal and waste his life boiling lake water, but I'm not. Speak for yourself. I was so torn because I always had the option to pack up and leave, but that meant that I wouldn't be making money, I'd be wasting resources like gas and other people's time to get me home, and the other option of swapping spaces to stay in the boathouse because I'm a woman and just, as an individual, have greater personal needs for access to water was treated like it would be a bit of a big, slightly unnecessary deal. And you know I can't let myself be a burden, because God forbid our boss wants to stay in the same straining mess that his workers are. He's not a bad guy. He's a great guy, actually. I just really needed someone to step up and have my interests in mind here, because I was mentally and physically deteriorating fast, keeping up with these conditions. My partner was really validating through it. Like, he confirmed that this was all unreasonable and unfair, and I had every right to be upset, or to leave, or demand a move, but he couldn't actually fix the problem. The one thing we managed was to run an outdoor garden hose through the downstairs bathroom window from outside so that we could flush that one toilet, but that also meant that there was no screen on the window, and the room would fill up with bugs, and we'd also have to shut the door constantly because it was freezing at night too, and that's not a great feeling on your butt. It was a week before the plumbers got here and got the cabin's water partially running. Once there was a set date that they were coming, like for real, I felt so much better. Like, that's the one thing about me. I can deal with a lot, but I can't hang on the prospect of things being potentially indefinite. I need to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or it's just all dark. and it really fucks with my head. And the thing that persistently bothers me about the whole thing isn't actually how my needs were so unmet, because I know it's hard for people to care when I'm so unable to vocalize things or advocate for myself. Like, I should have probably been throwing a fit if I was a reasonable person. But the part that bothers me is that I took on that extra labor and I got nothing for it. If we weren't staying at this cabin, the client would have paid for us to stay at another nearby island. They've done so before, and though the accommodations really weren't going to be much better, aside from having the running water, it would have cost them closer to $2,000 a week for us to be staying there and working. They got to save that money, and I took on the full weight of that saved expense. They saved $2,000, and I spent a week boiling lake water and never properly being able to clean my body. I feel like I'm owed something for this, you know? Like, why did I take on that cost? And I didn't get any extra compensation for the extra after hours physical labor or the emotional toll, and I know I won't. But shit like this just sours things so fast. I might be autistic, I might have slightly more intense basic needs, but the needs themselves are not like I'm asking for much, you know? Like, I don't feel like I'm asking for much not to be expected to put up with a week with no running water to take care of myself without expending extra effort that I will never be compensated for. You tell me, am I whiny or was this bullshit?